And slowly open the eyes.
I saw that I have a lot of fear to commitment in every aspect of my life. If it's work, partnership, and my question is, I would like to know about the relationship in between freedom and commitment. Because I can see how hard it is to commit. Because I feel I'm going to lose my freedom.
Life only gives you as much as you give. And if you can't commit to anything, you've already lost your freedom. Because you'll never know who you are. You'll never experience your greatness. You'll always sit in limitation and fear. And that's not freedom. Freedom's the power to say yes. Freedom's the consciousness and the love to give 100% from a place of internal power. What you're talking about is of the ego, and it has nothing to do with freedom. It's to do with the personality. But you're even abandoning your personality because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to truly shine. Because if you don't do things 100%, you don't shine. You never know your true potential, your true capacity. So you have to see that what you're talking about is just fear. It's just fear. It's got nothing to do with freedom. It's just pure fear. So, what are we going to do about that? Well, we have to dissolve it. We have to go into consciousness. We have to offer that fear back to the source and allow it to transform into an unlimited, unconditional love. And that's what the system's for. You know, most people live with the brakes on, but they're not even conscious of it. Most people have a lot of fear, but it's so emitted and they're so used to it that they can't see it. You have one advantage. You can see, I don't commit to anything. Usually most people that don't commit to anything project that externally. Project it onto the boss, onto the partner, onto everything external. But at least you can see it. Now you can transform it. And it's another place where it makes you interesting. Because people pursue. It's a game. That game. I don't know. Maybe. And it attracts people wanting to change you. And then you feel controlled. Then you think you're losing your freedom. But you're manifesting all of it through your ego. It's your game. I can tell just by looking at you. You've got that princess look. You're in Fiji. And I'd rather be in Tahiti. It's true, isn't it? Yeah. You're classic.
So the question is, how can I let go of my image?
You have to find your authentic being. And it's like you just said. I don't even know what my image is. But people tell me I have one. And I imagine I have one. But you know where it comes from, no? It comes from your ego. It comes from fear. The minute you start speaking the truth in every moment and being innocent and loving yourself exactly as you are, naturally, because you are naturally, authentically perfect. But you have to find that authenticity. Where do you find it? In the innocence, beyond all the circles and the belief systems and the ideas and the titles. You have to just let all those go and come back to yourself. Let the guilt go. Come back to yourself. Let the ideas go. Come back to yourself. And then you'll find yourself. And yourself will be very simple. Very simple. Very innocent. Very dynamic. Very powerful. Very easy. Without expectations. Just being. As you were when you were a child. But with a mature experience. So it's just about dropping everything and just loving yourself exactly as you are.
My question is, which one will be the difference in between our subconscious and consciousness?
Okay.
Please.
So consciousness is your divinity. It's your authenticity, your true nature, your unity with God, the vibration of unconditional love. Your subconscious is those circles that you're not aware of. Those circles that determine your life, how you behave, what you do, how you respond, how you react. And they're an accumulation of experiences that have transpired in your life. As you start to expand your consciousness, they'll start to bubble to the surface and they'll start to dissolve. They'll start to dissolve in the unity of unconditional love. It's like the bubbles coming up in a fish tank, no? And then they disappear. And as they come up, you'll be able to witness them from a place of consciousness and see, oh, that's not me. That's an idea, it's a thought, it's my mother, it's my grandmother, it's the school teacher, it's the religion, it's something that transpired, it's one of my brothers, my sisters, my joys, my sorrows. It's all of that. And it's all locked within you. And not only is it in your subconscious, it's supported within your body. The stress is within your body. And a thought will create a reaction. And that reaction will be projected into the illusion. And you will project it onto other people. When all of this starts to dissolve, you start to see yourself, but your divinity. You see your human experience. And that's when you start to cultivate compassion. Because you have compassion with yourself, and then you see through the eyes of compassion or unconditional love. And you see why people are as they are. So that's the difference.
While I've been here, I've learned a lot about how everybody else is a mirror and a teacher for me. And through some really tough situations, I've learned how to transform some of those relationships into peace. My question is, how important is it to share my process with those people, particularly those that have been the greatest teachers for me?
Well, you just need to speak your truth with them. I wouldn't think too much. You know, I think you're thinking too much. You have to be more innocent. Like a child, if you feel something, express it. And it's very important. Because here we project all over each other. And we call this God on the outside. Okay, and we project onto each other and we let go of all of our stresses, our fears, our controls, until we experience unconditional love. Like that angst just disappears. And you'll find that people with strong personalities, they hit on you, huh? I know when I tell you to look in a certain direction, you get angry. And that's okay. But you need to move all of that. And you have to open. But yes, if you're holding any judgment, you need to express and move, and you've got 4 days. So get moving.
How not to stuff resentments or feel separation with a person that hurt us a lot. Because I feel and I move, but I don't know if it's I have to move more or the ego got hooked in the story.
You know, you have to have the intention to let go. You have to have this idea of who you want to be. Do I want to hold on to this, which is like venom, because I can? Or do I want to just let it go? You have to ask that question. And it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with that person. But you have to let it go. And you have to keep letting it go until it doesn't affect you anymore. Because it's for you. You're not doing it for them. The reason we hold on to it is because on some level we want to get even. Even if we don't talk to them. We think that resentment is our revenge. And you need to see that. And people do it all the time. They do it with their ex-partners, their ex-bosses, their ex-friends. You notice the word ex always comes before. You know, and you just need to say, live and let live. You know, it's that simple. Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And just keep putting it down. Sometimes we create very complicated relationships in our lives. And they keep presenting and presenting and presenting. And at some point, you have to drop the control and just put a big yes.
I was thinking something about the magic of this process. How? Can you do your process 6 months? How it happened one of the girls? And doesn't see a trauma that is very important. It folds a fork and connects with a boss that abused her. And you go to express. And somebody gets in front of you. And you end expressing that with another person and it happens something magical. So many things. Sometimes we feel that this process is magic of growth. Can you talk about that?
You know, it's just becoming conscious of self. Come on. So how does that happen? You remember I say everything's the same. The energies. And what we're doing is we're transforming the low vibrations of love into high vibrations. So all those stresses, all those situations that have created that low vibration start to float to the surface. And then they transform. And because you're creating everything, you create situations Because we don't just have one sense. We don't just see. We hear, we feel, we smell. We have all these different senses. And when our consciousness decides to become subconscious, it locks it away. And the key to open that could be a sound of a fork falling. It could be the smell of something passing. It's not always rigid because the illusion's very complex. It's not easy to understand. You can't define it through a computer or a program. It's too intricate. The red's too intricate because it's creating something so complex through all the human perceptions. So when it starts to come up, it can be triggered from anywhere. Anywhere. And this is why we don't analyze. This is why I say, focus on one point. And everything moves towards that point. And that's why it's so fast. You know, you could go to a psychiatrist and talk for 50 years about your child abuse. And I'm not saying that it won't help, but will it disappear? If the energy's trapped, if the trauma's trapped, you can understand something intellectually, but you have to release it. So we trigger things from the most unexpected sources, so it's easy to move. So it is magic. It's magic how it was created, and it's more magical how we make it disappear. You know, the big abracadabra. I've gone from this to this. Something so small and transformed into something infinite. And that's enlightenment. The grand abracadabra.
The thing is that in the last year, I really focus on my creativity. I used to be a photographer, then I stopped. I focused on healing myself. And in this last year, I focused a lot on photography and music as well. And one thing that I see is how much I put my focus on what the outcome is going to be. How people are going to react to it, if it's going to be a success, if they're going to approve it, and so on. And I can see that I have that sparkle of creativity in me. And it comes out, but is very much stopped by this need of approval, success, I don't know what it is. And I would like to ask you, how can I get rid of it and just let this creativity that I know I have to flow freely?
If you look back throughout history, the greatest artists and composers of the world were not looking for success. They were just allowing their creativity to move through. In fact, most of them were ahead of their time. Many of them died before they had any money. But they made a mark on humanity. When you think of the Sistine Chapel, when you think of Beethoven, it doesn't matter who you think of. The greatest of all time have just allowed things to move through. And in the modern world, these things are more appreciated. And there's a bigger market. You know, before they were doing it for God. So they'd go into the churches, or they'd be doing it for the king. But now, you still have to be doing it from a pure energy. And it will come. It will come. But if you're doing something with an expectation, it usually ends up being mediocre. Because something's in the road. I adjust so that I get approval. I change so that I'm cool. I whatever, so it's marketable. And I feel that with creativity, that doesn't work. It has to just come. It just has to come. It can't be something that you're manipulating.
How to move through insecurity, because yesterday in the party I was seeing some patterns of fear, no, like to do a good role, and also I see that at job, control before talking about something important. Can you tell me about some tip or a clue before something important or social?
Okay, so firstly you have to trust in yourself. And this is a process. It's a process to get beyond your personality or your insecure personality and to anchor in consciousness and to really believe in what you're saying. Because when you have that energy behind, there's no fear. When there's no image, there's no fear. It just comes. And it comes crystal clear. Now, if you go out to do a presentation, firstly you have to trust in yourself. Secondly, you have to be anchored. And you have to stop worrying about what other people think. Because really, everything's creativity. It has to flow. It has to move. It has to come from within. So before you present, you have to go in. You have to find that security. And once you start, you'll be fine. What are you talking about? Public speaking or what?
Yes, especially. Important thing with my boss at work. I have sensations I will not be able to do it.
Well, you just need to be clear and open to receive. That's the most important thing. If you walk in with a no, you'll get a no. If you walk in with a yes, you'll get the yes. But you have to anchor and be true. True to you.
It's natural that I want to eat, even a lot of food, even alcohol, because I know that today I'm leaving, or because it's emotional and anxious. How can I distinguish?
Okay. How do you decide? If it's just, I want an ice cream, I want this, or I just want to eat because it's comfort food. You just need to stop and go in and ask yourself that question. It's not about natural. It's more like, am I eating through anxiety? Or am I eating because I'm enjoying? Okay, natural's got nothing to do with it. Okay, and you need to decide. If there's an anxiety, a need, a rush, that means it's anxiety. If it's just because I've been eating vegetarian food for a month and I want a steak, it's normal.
Since 2011 that I'm practicing, when I read your first book. And since then, I said, I want to be closer to Isha and the teachers. And since then, I have been assisting to the megas every year. But also since then, I wanted to do 6 months. And I always postponing it for the same reason. That is the money. I don't earn little, thanks God. But I have an issue with the lack. That is energetical. So my fear is, as I'm independent, if I don't work, I don't earn money. Plus my fear is that being 6 months outside of the roads of job, I'm going to lose my patience. Nobody will call me after 6 months to ask for an appointment. That's
What
a
sort of
general
patients do you have?
Psychologist, yes.
Oh.
So, I know, you will tell me, do the 6 months. But, guide me that eternal luck I have about the money, and it's not that I don't have money.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. If you're a psychologist, you have to have a certain amount of clarity, no? Like you have to have the capacity to self-observe. Okay, so if you can self-observe that you have fear, if I was going to be an integral psychologist, I would want to go beyond that fear, because I am teaching people to go beyond their fears. So I would feel, if I felt this process would take me beyond my fears, it would be the best thing I could possibly do for me and for my clients. And another thing, if I have a patient, I would be hoping, if I was a psychologist, that they would mature beyond me. I wouldn't be holding on to them as my clients. I'd be holding them up, trying to get rid of them. Do you understand? I'd be empowering them. I wouldn't be holding on to them. Okay, so you need to look at all these things, because what you've actually said is not very empowered. It's like all fear-based. I want to hold on to my patients. I want to hold on to my fear. I feel insecure that I won't have other patients. But if I was empowered, firstly I'd do it for me, and then I'd trust that if I'd grown so much, I'd be attracting many more people. So there's a chip in your brain that you need to change. I'm not being rude, but there's a place where you have to be integral. I'll give you an example. This is my favorite example because it's so ludicrous. Annie's sister won't talk to her. No way. The mother's dying. It doesn't matter what happens, the father died. She won't talk to Annie. She's holding her in some past moment. And her sister is a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist works in family planning. And she thinks Annie's nuts. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like at some point, as a professional, you have to ask yourself the hard questions. Am I walking my talk? Gracias.
Come visit our webpage for books, movies, and our wonderful retreat centers. Isha's simple yet powerful system is transforming lives around the world.